This is Off Track.
Hello and welcome, everyone, to Off Track with Hinch and Rossi. Last episode, the Tuesday episode, if you're here to hear about my child, go listen to that one because we're going to talk about race cars in this one.
He's not talking about Tim.
Well, we do mention Tim a little bit in that one.
We do. Unfortunately.
It's funny. Someone came up to me during the Indy GP weekend, and again, still blown away by everyone who listens to the podcast. But this one girl lady came up to me, and she said something kind of under her breath, and I didn't really capture all of it, but I heard little words, and I was like, oh yeah, like that was probably a mistake, because she said something like burn a hat. I thought she said I shouldn't have burned this hat. And I kind of laughed and said, oh yeah, it was probably a mistake. And so she took like an autograph card and kept walking. And Ed was standing next to me and he was like, what did she say? I said, I don't really know. Well, the next lady right behind her said what turned out being the exact same thing, just a little bit clearer. And she said, Tim signed my hat in Nashville and I should have burned it. And I said, yeah, nice.
I want to be clear because I remember this because I don't get asked to sign a lot of hats. So he was like, hey, will you sign my hat? And I go, are you sure this will devalue the hat? I made it very clear, like, yeah, no, sign the hat. I was like, okay,
well,
but you know I'm no one. Yeah. Well, I warned them.
I think if they wanted you to sign it just so they could make the commit the act of burning the hat that you had signed.
And I get that. that.
Yeah.
The only time I've ever signed an article of clothing without somebody asking me to was one time I signed Oriole Servia's shirt just because I thought it was funny. He was like in the middle.
Did he find it funny?
He did not.
Yeah.
He was in the middle of talking to everybody. And I did that thing, where you come up and you're like going to pretend to sign it, but he didn't react. So I panicked. And then I really just signed his shirt. And so he was just walking around with my signature on his shirt for the rest of the day.
That seems like a really poor reaction to a high stress situation.
It wasn't great. I'm not saying I'm coming out of that 10 out of 10, Tim, no notes.
Well, I think what we've learned, kids, is don't sign people's clothing without being asked to do that.
Well, or if you're going to do it, don't do what old Juan Pablo Montoya did. So I was sitting next to, I was doing an autograph session for an IMSA event. It was at Road Atlanta, I think. And the 6th car at Team Penske at the time was Dane Cameron, Simon Pagenaud, and Juan Montoya. And I was sitting next to Simon. And so basically Simon was in between me and Juan. And Simon has long had a Richard Mille deal. And so for people that don't know what Richard Mille is, it's like they are pretty much the pinnacle of watches, especially in the sporting arena. They are at the same tier as an AP or a Hublot or whatever. And Simon had a white watch, and Juan, with a black Sharpie, reached over and signed during the autograph session Simon's white Richard Mille. And you can imagine the reaction that Simon had. And Juan kind of yes.
Just for the people at home, that's a 6-figure watch.
Minimum.
Yes. That's a
watch.
That's a modest house in the Midwest on his wrist.
So you can imagine Simon's reaction. He was seething.
I can't imagine. I don't even know what I would. I think I might stab him. I think I might have stabbed him. Not to death,
right?
But I would have impaled him with something.
Yeah.
Wow.
Got a stain on one of his objects, meaning blood on his shirt. Right.
Yikes. Okay, so just don't sign stuff unless someone asks you to sign it, kids.
Especially if it's
with the caveat that if it's Oriole Servia, it's fine.
I'm gonna fundamentally disagree. We have now evidence.
Anyways,
I bought him a new
moving
shirt.
on.
I bought him
IndyGP, guys.
IndyGP happened, so let's run through your race weekend, and then we can run through the race itself. No.
Yes.
Yep.
ECR historically pretty strong at Indy road course. We qualified 9th. I thought we were maybe a 7th place car. Maybe it could have snuck into the Fast Six. it's funny. IndyCar's tough. IndyCar's tough. It's tough. It's tough. It's tough. I don't know how else to say it. So
is IndyCar tough?
When you combine the kind of round one qualifying times, we were third, and went into round two and lost a 10th. Just picked up a slight bit of understeer that quite honestly, these cars are they're very track temperature sensitive. Indy GP has always been track temperature sensitive. When you're that strong in the first round, it's very hard to change anything, even though in your gut, you should. So I waffled for a while, and I ultimately said, don't do it. We should have added a little bit of front wing. And we missed transferring by like 400ths, which is like the name of the game. Like everyone has that story. I don't think anyone clearly was good enough for pole, but could we have fought in the Fast Six? Possibly. But regardless, we started ninth. The car had been pretty much in the window all weekend. Until Saturday. So we were one of the cars that used, so going into the weekend, we talked about the new tire requirements during the race. One of the things that came out of having to run 2 primaries and 2 alternates in the race was they got rid of the rule where you have to run new alternates, and they also got rid of the rule where you have to give back a set of alternates before the race. So historically, because you had to give the set back, a lot of teams would run alternates in practice 1.
Yeah, you had to give them back after practice 1.
You had to give them back after practice 1. They got rid of that rule for an unknown reason. And so it basically gave you carte blanche to use the alternate tires as you saw fit. So we were one of the
4
cars.
sets.
You had 4 sets. We were one of the cars that used a set in practice 2 just to get a glimpse of what it was going to be in qualifying, which was really, I was relieved that we did because we missed it. We missed the balance in practice 2. So we were able to make adjustments going into qualifying because otherwise we would have been like P20. So it was good that we did that. But what that meant was we ran used alternates for banker tires for rounds 1 and 2. And why that's important is because essentially going into warm-up, I had a very used set of alternates and a very used set of primaries from practice 1. And so we were pretty bad in warm-up, but we put it down to tires. The alternates had 12 laps on them. The primaries had 18 laps on them. We were loose. It was like, yeah, that's to be expected. We often talk about warm-up. You can't really read into it. Where I think we missed was we looked at warm-up as warm-up. Oh, you can't read into it. Not that you usually don't read into morning warm-up at 8:30 in the morning. This was an 11:45 warm-up. And so we probably should have taken a little bit more credence in the balance that we had. And we kind of just shipped it. We just said, it'll be fine. It's been fine all weekend. It wasn't. And we honestly weren't fast. We really struggled on both tires. The team did a good job trying to manage as best as we could and to capitalize as best as we could. And we were slogging through it. I think we would have finished 10th, 11th. But the way it all kind of cycled out, we were on the primary tire to end the race. And we had a pretty big buffer to like that next group of cars, the 11th, 12th, 13th, 14th group, and felt pretty confident that we could maintain that kind of 5.5, 6 second gap to the end of the race, unless, of course, there was a yellow.
Right.
And we got a yellow. It was a fake yellow. I mean, it was a real yellow in the sense that there was a safety car, but it wasn't because anyone crashed. It was just a yellow because a car broke. Which is still mind-boggling to me that we haven't had any yellows due to like cars crashing or contact or anything, which is again confusing.
We had a little bit of contact in the first couple laps. Ericsson got dumped when his car slowed down with a mechanical problem, but like kept rolling, and it was right in front of pit lane, so he managed to get in. Like there's so many things that were so close before Malukas' car stopped. But yeah.
So we had to do a restart, and we were on primes, and the 5 cars behind us were on alternates. So we ended up 14th, which I was talking to my engineer about it. Like we were both pretty disappointed because we thought, we had a opportunity based on the weekend to be, a top 5, top 6 car, and to end 14th feels like a huge loss. but like it was such a bad day in terms of like how I felt in the car and our pace and all that sort of thing. I was like, if that's our worst day is 14th, like we're going to be fine. Like this is all going to be just fine. So, just still need to, we haven't really had much time because after the race I left for obvious reasons. So I'm going to head to the track here in a little bit.
Had to go get
recording
peed on.
this on a Monday, to kind of do some more analysis of what we missed, but ultimately, disappointing for the 20 car, but that is what it is. It's fine.
So I asked you this question earlier, but after thermal, okay. So we're gonna get into the race. We're gonna get into why, how Alex Palou is doing what he's doing. But
Do you know?
no. What we're gonna get into is how everybody's dumbfounded. But yes,
Yeah.
But one of the things that came out of thermal, which was also like an interesting tire race and whatever, was Alex ran third that whole race. Pato led the whole day. But in that final stint, Pato had to go to a used set of reds where Alex had a new set of reds, and that new set on a high deg track, he just drove through everybody and won the race on a trot. So with the way the tire rule played out, you had everybody basically made the decision to save a new set for the race, even though that was no longer a requirement. In qualifying, you could have burned them all, but most people, or I don't think anybody did, nobody that I know of did. So everybody had their one new set for the race. My question to you was, after what you saw Alex doing thermal, after Barber, where you came out on hards in the final stint and had to fight off guys that had softs, what was the motivation for having hards on in that final stint? Because I know we hadn't had a yellow, but there was always a chance that a yellow could come out.
So we started on the primary, and we were shockingly bad on the prime. And so to give you guys some insight, throughout the race, we took out 6 turns of front wing.
Okay, so what does that mean for people who don't necessarily know when you take out a turn?
Usually through an IndyCar race, presuming it's dry, right, and there's no, it doesn't start damp or whatever, right? It's just a normal day. As the rubber goes down and cars are consistently running on track, usually the grip level increases, and you're adding bits of front wing throughout the race. A turn of front wing, it's team dependent, but it's about 0.6, call it 0.5% of COP. And COP is center pressure, is the aero balance. It's a very controlling factor of the overall balance of the car.
So you're putting more percentage of the downforce on the front of the car when you're adding front wing.
When you're adding, exactly.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's usually an offset of front wing between alternates and primary tires, because the alternates have a little bit more rear grip, and so you're trying to keep the balance the same between tires. To take out 6 turns of front wing, to remove, means that we started way outside the window.
And that loose car from warm-up was just as loose in the race.
Yes.
Yeah.
How we got there, it's still TBD. But anyways, so we were shocking on the blacks, and so we put on new alternates, and we were hoping that would solve some of our issues. It did not. So then it was like, all right, well, we got to keep working on the car. And we were so bad on blacks, and the car's really not any better. Let's put on used alternates and see if we can continue making this thing better, right? So it was an effort to see if we could get the car balance better by the time, in our mind, we had to put on the worst tire. It ended up, by the time we got all the front wing out of it, the prime's right. It actually was the right decision, because when you put the prime, our last stint on primes was actually our best stint.
Right. Okay.
Because the balance was actually in the window more.
Yeah.
So even though it was the worst tire, we were running better lap times. So it wasn't really, there was no strategic decision behind what we were doing. Like, we didn't think that was the right thing to do, but we were in a sense of desperation because we were. So.
Fair enough. Okay. All right. So the race as a whole, Alex Palou started on pole. Well, actually, hold on. Let's do a quick throwback to qualifying, and let's give credit where credit's due. Hall Letterman landing in racing. 3 cars in the Fast 6.
That is so hard to do. It's so hard to get in the Fast 6 with 1 car. All of them. It wasn't even like, 2 out of 3. They went in and put every single car there. That is unbelievable.
Including a rookie.
Penske can't even do that.
Right. Penske had 2 of 3, and the third guy was 7th. They did very well as well, but not as well.
No.
So you had Graham on the front row, you had Louis Foster third, you had Dev in fifth. They were in the top 5, 3 cars in the top 5 for any team. That is insanity. And just huge credit to that whole group for pulling off what they did. Obviously, Alex used a slightly different tire strategy, and so he was the only guy that had a set of stickers for Q3. So, I mean, the gap was like 3 or 4 tenths or whatever, but like that was slightly
4.5 tenths.
4.5 tenths. So slightly exaggerated.
Yeah.
But he was also quickest in pretty much every session and was going to be on pole anyway. But it just made him look really, really good. Also,
he's
shout
been
out
struggling
to,
with optics lately.
Yeah.
I'm glad something broke his way finally.
Yeah, it's finally going his way. Also, shout out to Kiffin Simpson, who had I think his best start and was quick all weekend and was doing well. The Ganassi cars in general were doing pretty well. Out qualified Dixon in the same car, so
For the second week in a row.
There you go. Yeah, that's right. So the race was interesting. No one, again, first race, we were doing these new tire rules. So a lot to like figure out, for us to learn how teams thought it was going to play out and who was going to kind of employ what strategy. Majority of the top guys started on reds. The start, Graham got into the lead in a nice, impressive move. Dev got himself up into third. Palou was sandwiched in the middle, and things were kind of off and running. And so, yeah, so I mean, for the first kind of stint, it was running around. Graham and Alex were kind of back and forthing a little bit. First stops, same kind of thing. Came on the same lap, I think. Everything was pretty tight, but Graham went a different route with tires, and it was already starting to seem like this was going to play out into Palou's favor. He was just kind of sitting back and waiting to see how this all unfolded. And then even before we got to the final round of stops where Alex was going to get to put on sticker reds, and I think Graham had to go to primaries, go to the blacks, Palou just pulled him in, went by him, started driving away. Then he got to put on his sticker reds, started driving away even more, like 9 seconds or something. Then a yellow came out. First restart since St. Pete, lap 5. Drove away again, still won by 6 seconds. Like, it's outrageous, man. It's outrageous what's happening right now. You're on the track, you're in the car, you can see competitor data. You have more insight than either of us. What is going on over there in the 10 car specifically?
Bro, it's incredible. So first of all, Ganassi, McLaren kind of noticed this. This became pretty apparent at the thermal test in 2023. The Ganassi cars are the slowest cars on the straight, more always. And it's not like this is an open championship with aero. You're not cars. I mean, there's a couple tracks that you trim at, but no one's trimming in qualifying.
Yeah,
no one's trimming
max downforce pretty much everywhere.
Right. And they've been very slow in the straights. What I take that to imagine the conclusion I draw from that is they're slow in the straights because they're generating drag, which means they're generating downforce somewhere. But I'm not kidding you, James. Through 5 events, I don't think there's been a corner where I've been quicker than him. Not one. And I'm not telling the Ganassi story because I think it's the car. Like, it's clearly him as well. But like, they have unlocked something, and he is able to extract all of it at all times. I was talking to Felix before the race, and he has way more than competitor data. He has actual high data, right? And so the competitor data comes over telemetry, and it's a little blotchy, and you can get kind of indications,
a sense of it.
Yeah, you're not going to see the finite detail of it. And Felix, as we all have discussed, he's one of the fastest guys in the series. Over a lap, he's I would say in the top 5 of just purely the quickest dudes. And I was like, what does the data look like? And he was like, dude, you know the compare line? And I'm like, yeah. So the compare line is essentially you set your lap as a delta, and it's a straight line. It's just completely horizontal line.
Like the benchmark time.
Right. And then if there's a line that goes below it, that means the car you're comparing to is faster, and vice versa. And a lot of times throughout a lap, especially when you're comparing to teammate cars, you'll see this kind of like almost heart rate effect.
Yeah, it's an ebb and flow. You dip
someone
above
charges
and below
more on entry, but gets a little worse exit, or someone's just really good through a sequence, so they gain a 10th here, but you're better in that sequence, so you pull it back and you end a 10th apart or 600ths apart or whatever, right? It ends up being pretty close to the same. And if you were able to combine both your laps together, you'd probably gain 2/10 the both of you, right? Because you're both doing good things throughout the lap. He was like, bro, it's a completely diagonal line.
It's just every corner he's gaining the entire time.
Yeah. And it's just, and he's like, I don't know what to tell you. Like,
more questions than answers. Yeah, it sounds neat for him. But I mean, you're right. He's still got to drive it. He's still got to execute. The team does an incredible job in the pits. I think they call the strategy great. They had that sticker set of reds at the end, which worked for them in thermal and was the move.
But here's the thing, James. The team on the strategist engineering side, and obviously Alex in the car, because all drivers are part of. I hate when fans get on the internet and yell at the team like, oh, that was a strategy, or how could you keep doing this? Like, the drivers are very involved. They're very part of that. All making these decisions in the pre-event meetings together. So it is all of our inputs that gets us to that decision. And they are operating at such a high level of confidence that they can make these correct decisions, because they know that even if the correct decision has a little bit of risk to it, Alex is going to bail him out, or the 10 crew in pit lane will bail him out. So they can make the correct decisions that are slightly high risk, high reward, because they know that regardless, they'll come out the other side of it.
Case in point is the tire strategy going into qualifying, because like you mentioned, you tried a set of the reds in practice to get that balance read, right? Which you said was the right move, because the balance as is, just switching from blacks to reds, would have been terrible, right? About, I think it was like 10 cars, 11 cars, 12 cars, something like that. Like almost half. For easy math, let's call it roughly half the field use a set in practice for that same reason, right? Palou, like the Ganassis, the Penske's, those guys didn't do it. What they did do, right? So keeping in mind, you've got 4 sets of sticker reds. Looking back on it now, most teams had decided they were going to save 1 set for the race. So you've got 3 sets now, okay? So in theory, you could use 1 in Q1, 1 in Q2, 1 in Q3. Almost everybody was like, look, if we throw on the reds and the balance is way off, we're going to be starting 26th. So let's go red in Q1, 2 new sets, another new set in Q2, and then use reds in Q3 if you get through, which is kind of like almost a standard way.
Yeah, you get 2 bites of the apple in round 1 if you miss the balance, right? Yeah.
So you can make an adjustment. So the Penske's did it. Everybody did it. Palou did not do it. He did bankers on blacks, threw his first set of stickers reds on, and just bam, gets in. And now he immediately is in the catbird seat, and it's almost impossible to beat him to pole after he does that, as the only guy that did that. So when you get to the Fast 6, he was the only one with a new tire to use and still have one for the race. Unbelievable. The confidence you have to have in your car and your driver and your information to pull that move off is wild to me. What I don't know, I don't remember if like Kiffin did it maybe in practice, and so the team had a little bit of a sense. I don't remember.
Yeah, I don't know.
But still, it's just, dude, they're just rolling right now.
They did test here, so they had that going for them. Obviously they didn't. They also kind of tested in Barber because the MSR cars were there. So this has been a good start to the season for them. I can't see it continuing. That doesn't mean it won't.
Statistically speaking, it shouldn't. That's just not how it works. But
yeah, I don't know. We'll see. I mean, he's very good at Indy.
Mm-hmm. He was very good at the open test.
I think in 2022, was it? Like the year he was on pole, like he probably should have, I mean, he should have been in contention to win that race, if not win it. And then he had that incident
got boned by a yellow.
Renus.
Yeah.
No, it was Renus dumped him in pit lane. And he still drove back
to
like fourth, right?
Fourth.
Yeah. So that was 2022.
That wasn't 23?
No.
Oh. 22. Yeah, that makes sense.
I was in a McLaren car in 23.
Yeah. Yeah, and like in the open test, he was quite. Yeah, we'll see, man. We'll see what happens. Obviously, Indy's the hardest one to win because it's so much longer and so much more opportunity for stuff to go wrong.
You're right.
And
way more luck. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't want to say it's more of a lottery, but like luck has more opportunity to play.
Look at 2016; it's a pretty big lottery.
I mean, you could also make that argument for the pole on 2016. That was total bull.
That's just luck of the draw.
No, that was just he got the sympathy Honda horsepower.
Yeah,
sorry you almost died. Here's a couple extra. Here's a couple extra HPs.
They thought he was Sato's car. Yeah.
It was still a good story. So like all
still a good story.
PR, yeah,
exactly. Can't let the facts get away in a good story. So yeah, he just walked away. He killed it. I got to give Pato a big shout out. That was a great drive from him. He's driving really well, man. He's doing like the championship run kind of drives where like he's not making mistakes. When they have bad qualifyings, he makes, good decisions in the race and whatever. They had a decent qualifying, but ended up P2.
James, you're absolutely right. He is making a championship style run for second.
Correct. Yes. Yeah. I mean, you have to win races still.
So there was a stat that our buddy Nathan Brown put out. I think it was yesterday.
Yeah. So
Sunday,
bad.
Which just floored me, and it was so upsetting. So he essentially said, "All right,
remember, we're 5 races in.
We're 5 races in." He said, "Alex Palou already has X amount of points. I forget what 200 and whatever it is.
Whatever it was.
If he simply starts the remaining 12, finishes DFL, that stands for dead last, right? He will score as many points as the car who finished 12th in the championship last year. Meaning he has already scored enough points to not show up essentially and finish 12th in the championship.
To finish last in every race from here on out. For 12 races of a 17 race championship, he can finish last and he'll still be in the top 12 in points. Mm-hmm. Like not even like we get to the end of the season and guys are fighting over the last spot in the leader circle. That's 22nd. Mm-hmm. We talk about the battles for 22nd and 23rd in the last few races. Mm-hmm. He could be 10 positions ahead of that by just finishing last, taking the start and pulling into pit lane at the end of lap one. Yep. And going home and sipping on a margarita. It's wild. It is the largest points gap to second points lead that anyone's had after 5 races in like the history of IndyCar.
So Connor is in the group chat of ours, and so I sent that fact, and our buddy Drew was like, and Connor reacted to it, and our buddy Drew was like, "Bro, do you want to know what the good news is? You are closer," he was talking to Connor, "you are closer to second in the championship with where you are than second is to first." And Connor was like, "Actually, that is great news. I feel so much better about how things have gone."
It is easier for Connor to catch second than it is for second to catch Palou.
Right.
Absolutely insane. Because what, is it Kirkwood that's second right now?
It is, yes.
He had a good day too. He had a bad qualifying and picked up a bunch of spots. Renus again, another top 10.
Yeah,
just
that's pretty. It's pretty impressive, I have to say. What he has done in a coin car the past 2 events has been nothing short of astounding, actually.
So right now, Kirkwood is 97 points behind Palou. 97 points between first and second. There's less than 10 points between second and 6th. So the 5 cars behind him are covered by less than 10. And he's running around out there like a jerk. 97 points in the lead. Oh my God. Yes. So we got our caution. The race was still, we technically had 2 passes for the lead on track, which is good, I guess. The race had some interesting ebb and flow throughout the way the tires played out. So yeah.
So from your seat, I haven't watched the race. Your seat, was the tire rule mandate, whatever you want to call it, was it a success? Was it irrelevant?
This is a great question. This is a great question because we had this conversation going into this weekend. I said I didn't love midseason changes and I didn't love this, that, the other, but I was going to go into it open-minded and kind of see. I didn't hate it. I think that having to manage multiple stints on the less preferred tire is harder. And it creates more separation, especially when it's not like, if everyone was going like hard, soft, then it wouldn't be, then it's irrelevant, right? Like it's not really that worthwhile. But because everybody had their own way of approaching it and different ways of approaching it, I didn't hate it. Now, do I think mandating that on Indy GP is a 3-stop race, right? A 2-stopper is not actually feasible. So do I think this is a smart thing to do at a race where it could be a 2 or a 3? No. That's my caveat. You can't cherry pick. I know.
I agree completely with everything you just said. I didn't hate it. I thought it was, let's be honest, I don't think it changed the outcome of the race any. I think it added another element. I think you're right. It highlighted maybe some strengths and weaknesses of cars. I thought it was kind of fun knowing that like there was more tire offsets. So you're racing against people on different tires, and you're right, there was ebb and flow and all that sort of thing. But we cannot eliminate. I understand that fuel saving is become a bone of contention for some people. That's part of IndyCar racing.
Yeah.
That is some of the best races we've had is 2 versus 3 stop. Now, we have extended some of these races to kind of try and eliminate that, but there will be yellows as the season unfolds, right? And there will still be opportunities for guys to take a gamble and cut out a pit stop, right? Depending on where the yellow falls. And if you have a tire rule that prevents you from doing that, you're eliminating that option. And I don't think that is correct. I don't think
I agree
that otherwise, why are we refueling? Like what?
Exactly.
Like it's just, that is part of the spectacle of what IndyCar is no, F1 doesn't do it. IMSA kind of does it, but in a fake way because everyone spends the exact amount of time in pit lane refueling the car. It's 30 seconds, right? So it's like, then why? So you cannot get rid of that option for someone to roll the dice and to try and stretch it on fuel and make it work because that is part of our DNA and our entity as a series.
Completely agree. So did it work here? Yeah, I would say I would give it a passing grade. But like, do I think we should go to Detroit with a 3-stop rule? No, I don't necessarily think that's the way to do it.
Because ultimately, as we saw, giving us more stops so that we can push flat out throughout the entire race didn't cause cautions. The only caution we had was because a car broke down. It wasn't because people were making mistakes and hitting each other and all this sort of thing.
And in Barber, everybody was pushing flat out, and it didn't change it. It didn't make it any better or worse.
So we can't say that this tire thing allowed there to be a caution because that's a lie. That's fake news.
Correct.
Yeah.
So okay. So when IndyCar comes to the drivers,
well, they don't listen, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah, I did like the spicy comment from McLaughlin in the pre-race press conference about this exact tire rule. Okay, but if IndyCar comes to you and says, "Hey, this we liked this at Indy GP. What do you think about implementing it somewhere else?" Do you think it's going to be a universal no from the people behind the wheel, from the teams? Like, let's not even
nothing is universal. Well, actually, it was universally to this. I don't think it would be universal because I'm sure someone will glean that they had some sort of advantage from doing it this way. But I would still say the majority will be no. And if you go based on how we've always made decisions in the past, minus this one, it's been a majority vote sort of thing. So, but I don't have a feeling we're going to be asked. So I think we're all going to be surprised about a race memo at the end of the month for Detroit.
I just wonder if they
let me
will
tell you,
think about this.
if they mandate running greens twice in Detroit, holy,
But that's just it, right? Like that, and we had this
that's
conversation.
That's going to be asinine. It's going to
street
be such a
circuit,
fake.
it would be a farce.
event. You're literally going to have everyone come in on lap one.
So I'm thinking like Road America would be another good one for it, because Road America, it's always 3 stops. You can't really do alternate strategies because pit lane's so long, the lap's so long. Like
I think
if
you're going to cherry pick, and you were going to do it this way, which I think is dumb, but if you were going to do it, you have to do the bona fide for sure 3 stoppers.
Yeah. Because like Mid Ohio can be both, so it doesn't really work there.
Portland can be both.
Portland can be both.
Where else do we go?
What other road courses do we go to?
Pretty much it. We're almost done.
That we
with
haven't
those.
already. Yeah.
Yeah. It's just Road America, Portland, right?
Mid Ohio.
Mid Ohio, yeah.
Yeah, 5 on the day, 5 on the year. That makes sense.
We got
anyway.
a lot of circle tracks coming up, which it's funny. I was talking to Ed, and I was like, man, it's funny because like Palou won so many of his championships, and he was Dixon 2.0 in the sense that like he wasn't the qualifying guy. Like, yeah, he was always putting his car in the top 7 every weekend, right? But he wasn't the pole guy. And, you know, the team and him would execute and be very good on sequences and all that sort of thing. And they would come out with a win, and he won championships. Now he's the qualifying guy too, which is awesome for him, I guess. How screwed are we all if he also in this offseason has figured out ovals? Because,
well, dude, yeah, here's the thing. He hasn't like not figured them out. Like his finishing record's not terrible.
I know, but he's still... at this point, everyone shows up to a road and street course race and they're like, oh, like you don't have that feeling going to ovals yet.
No,
right?
I feel like when you go to an oval right now, you're looking at Joseph, you're looking at Pato as like the kind of 2 guarantees to be
and
up
Scott
there.
McLaughlin.
Yes. Yeah, fair. Yeah. Good call. Those are kind of your 3 almost inevitabilities, you know, in the same way that when you go to a road or street track, it's your Palous and your
Herta and
Hertas. Yeah. But like, he's got several podiums. I know he doesn't have his win yet, but he's got several podiums and ovals. I think before his crash in Iowa last year, like his worst oval finish was like, I think he got taken out his very first one in Texas back in like 2020. But like, I want to say after that first year, since Ganassi, his worst oval finish until that crash at Iowa was like 12th, like 10th or 12th. Like, it's pretty solid. And like, if all you have to do is finish top 10, and he's got a 97-point lead.
He doesn't have to
show up.
Yeah, he doesn't have to do anything.
Skip it.
Yeah.
Like if he wins Indy, he might feasibly just miss Detroit because he can just take that weekend off, enjoy a bit of downtime, do the media that he needs to do.
No, speaking of cherry picking, he might just cherry pick the tracks he likes.
Yeah.
Like, I don't really like Portland. I mean, who does?
Yeah.
Right?
I was gonna skip
I ain't
that
going.
one. Yeah. Weird. All right. Other racing stuff. Just quickly before I just want to close on your thoughts heading into practice week, but we were talking about this earlier. The shout out to Team Penske and IMSA. Unreal. Another 1-2 at Laguna.
How in the, I mean, this is kind of similar to what Palou is doing in a spec.
Yeah.
I say that with air quotations, championship, right? Walking the field in 4 of 5. But in like a championship that is the performance and pace is directly controlled in order to make it a better show and more entertaining and more even. How on earth is Penske doing this?
They're 3 for 3. They're 3 for 3. Yeah, man. And the first 2 were 12 and 24 hours long.
4 actually.
What do you mean?
They won Long Beach.
Oh, because they won. Oh, Long Beach. I forgot about Long Beach. Yes, sorry, 4 for 4. I don't know. Did they win Petite last year? Or they actually like 5 on the trot? Doesn't matter. It's
BMW
insane.
won Petite, but yeah,
it's insane what they're doing. But it comes down to execution, right? Like ultimately, if the car performance is controlled.
I don't care. No, it doesn't, because James, like we all have been very a part of BOP, right?
Yes.
And there's some tracks where you get hosed, not intentionally,
right?
Based on
just
the
nature of the
style
car
of track and whether you have weight or not, or power or not, or all this sort of thing, fuel or not. Like there's going to be something that disadvantages you. Mm-hmm. And we have had, as you said, a 24-hour race, a 12-hour race, a street course race, and a permanent road course race. And like that Porsche historically has not been the benchmark everywhere. Like it's been good, but it's not. Yeah. I'd argue that like the Cadillac has been the benchmark across all these different types of tracks, right? And then almost the Acura, and then the Porsche. So it's crazy to me what they're able to do. Unless, do they have some wild BOP in their favor? Like, is that a conspiracy theory that we want to get behind?
I mean, it's not impossible. It's not impossible. We've seen.
I mean, they don't own that series, right?
No, but we have seen at times IMSA waits for an abundance of evidence that a change is needed before the change is needed. And you've been on the other side of that, where a change was implemented against a team you were driving for that wasn't really based on the car's performance. It's the drivers were like saving fuel intentionally, and the team or the series was like, "Oh, you guys can go too long in your stints. We're taking your fuel tank smaller." It's like, well, no, that's not how that should work. So I don't know. There's a chance that it's just taken a little bit longer for them to react, or they're reacting in small amounts. And look, Sebring and Daytona, it doesn't matter how fast your car is, right? You have to be just like good and execute over, like a lot can go wrong for a fast car in 24 hours,
yes,
right?
Yes.
So it's not always the fastest car that wins, right? So
yes,
Long Beach, yes, you start up front, you finish up front. There's not really a lot of strategy there. Laguna, that's a proper track. The car needs to be working. So maybe they're good in those types of tracks and like just kind of outperformed their program in the two enduros. We will see as the season goes on. But we just wanted to give them a shout out because that was very impressive. And then, yes, we start practicing tomorrow for the 500. Alex.
Yeah.
How much has changed for you since the open test? Are you guys going with similar program? Have you changed a lot? What's your deal going into practice?
Changed virtually nothing.
Okay.
Changed virtually nothing. I mean, there's some very small component changes that are month of May only, but in terms of like, it's the same car, same floor, same all of the parts, the good parts that we had at the open test will still be on the car. There's obviously some special stuff that goes on all cars up and down the grid come Saturday morning for qualifying. But yeah, no, it's the car that we left the open test with, happy with. It's again going to be I think a pretty representative week. By the time we get to Thursday, it's mid 80s. Qualifying, the draw is going to be super critical. It's going to warm up throughout the day on Saturday. So if you can get an early draw, that'll make your Saturday quite easy from a stress standpoint, at least, of maybe not having to run again to get into the Fast 12. And I can tell you, I didn't talk to many people after the open test, but I talked to quite a few people during driver intros for the GP on Saturday. How was your car on the open test and what do you think and all this sort of thing. And everyone was like, yeah, it was pretty good, but holy cow, Q-sims are hard. So I think it's going to be qualifying weekend. We say how it's for me. And I think you agree, James, like it's the best weekend in IndyCar outside of the 500. And I think it's going to be even more wild this year. Like it's the days of bravery in terms of trimming are back. And because previously the cars, even with the aero screen and the added boost that we had in 2020, everyone was all of the top cars we're kind of getting to a similar trim level. And then it was just a matter of kind of scrub through the corners and car build. And if you had a very good car in terms of car speed
fall
that
off.
year. Exactly. This year, you are not getting to the trim level that we previously have gotten to. So
really, just because the extra weight.
Just because the extra weight. So that means the opportunity for someone to put a big set of on is going to exist to try and go for it. And it's going to be about, can you tolerate it and suck it up and hold it flat for 4 laps, which is awesome. That's how it should be. It shouldn't be about, oh, I don't want to trim too much, so I'm scrubbing too much sort of thing. Like, I want to trim to the point where I'm dying and I so badly want to lift on lap 4. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah. That is cool. Cool. All right. Well, I'm excited. Good luck over the practice. And Tim wants to say something.
Just want to remind everybody, we do have the live show on the 19th. Alex won't be there. He's got, some other stuff going on in May, but James and I will be there. Clayton Anderson will be there. And then right after that show, Alex, you have a Java House thing at the track too, if you want to tell anybody.
I do.
About it.
So I won't make the live show on the Monday because it ends.
Has a kid and then suddenly,
No, relax.
It's too big.
Relax.
Just getting peed on.
It's right after our session, and so I gotta obviously debrief, and then right after the debrief, I have a Java House appearance in the midway. So if you want to go get your James and Tim fix at the live show, go do that. And then if you want to come tell me how terrible Tim is in person, come do that right afterwards.
I'll sign your hats.
Yeah.
Tim, remind everybody the deal with the live show tickets and everything.
We have the link on social. I'll push that again so you can get them on there. I don't know how many are left.
It's limited. It's a full day at the track. It's not just for the live show. You get to hang out in a Tower Terrace suite. It's catered. There's food, there's drinks, there's the live show once practice is finished. And then, mosey right on down to the midway post our show to catch the Java House appearance with Alex. I'm going to go bug him because it's fun watching him work, especially when I don't have to do anything.
Pods,
Yeah, fair. Tim would like some more pods.
Yeah.
So that's all coming up, guys. It's exciting. So yes, best of luck in practice. Best of luck in qualifying. I'm super excited. It's because of what you just said. I have a whole new level of excitement for qualifying this year. You can watch it all on Fox. Practice is on FS1 and FS2. And guys, we will check in next week. It's crazy to think how many hours you're going to have been on the track before we talk on the show again. So we'll have lots to cover. But hopefully we'll see you guys on Monday. Hopefully we'll see you out at the track over the weekend and over the week. Come say hi, and we will chat to you guys soon. This has been Off Track with Hinch and Rossi. Off Track is part of the SiriusXM Sports Podcast Network. If you enjoyed this episode and want to hear more, please give a 5-star rating and leave a review. Subscribe today wherever you stream your podcasts. We are at Ask Off Track on Twitter and Instagram. And if you want to follow us on Twitter, we're at Hinchtown and at Alexander Rossi. If you want to follow Tim, though we have no idea why you would, he's at the Tim Durham on Twitter. Find us on YouTube and subscribe to our channel for exclusive video content. Off Track is produced by Tim Durham, and by that we mean Tim.